Don't show up. You're a disappointment, my dad said. I simply said, fine. 2 weeks later he texted, can you wire $5,000 for your sister? I replied, disappointments don't do wire transfers. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing after that. My father's last words to me before I stopped answering his calls were, don't show up. You're a disappointment. Just like that. No hesitation, no regret in his voice. And you know what I said back? Fine. One word. That's all he got from me. 2 weeks later my phone lit up with a text. Can you wire $5,000 for your sister? I stared at that message for a solid minute before typing back. Disappointments don't do wire transfers. I hit send and thought that would be the end of it. But my phone, it wouldn't stop buzzing after that. Margot, by the way. 32 years old, living in Denver, working as a corporate attorney. But let me back up because none of this makes sense without knowing how I got here. Growing up in Cincinnati, I was always the difficult daughter. My younger sister, Brianna, was the golden child. She's 28 now, married to Trevor, who claims he works in cryptocurrency consulting. My dad, Richard, owned a small construction company. After my mom died when I was 15, Dad just checked out emotionally. Brianna got babied even more and I got the criticism. Do you think some parents are just incapable of showing pride in certain kids? I put myself through college and law school with scholarships and 3 jobs. Meanwhile, Brianna dropped out of community college after 2 semesters, and Dad paid for her entire $15,000 wedding. The math wasn't matching. The disappointment comment came 3 weeks ago. Dad called on a Tuesday afternoon. Brianna's pregnant, he announced. No greeting, nothing. Oh, I said. Congratulations. We're having a family dinner this Saturday to celebrate. Your Aunt Phyllis is coming in from Columbus, your Uncle Gary, everyone. I checked my calendar. Dad, I have a deposition on Monday. I really need this weekend to prepare. The silence was deafening. Then, you know what, Margot? Don't show up. You're a disappointment anyway. Always have been, always choosing work over family. My hands went numb. Excuse me. Brianna's starting a family, doing something meaningful with her life, and you're just, what? Making money? That's not real life, Margot. I should have screamed. Instead I just said, fine, and hung up. I didn't cry. My best friend Jenna came over that night with wine. She listened and said, you know you're not actually going to let this go, right? Honestly, at that moment I planned to let it go. I was tired of trying to earn love from someone who clearly had none to give me. But then came the text 2 weeks later. I was at a coffee shop when my phone buzzed. Dad's message was simple and infuriating. Can you wire $5,000 for your sister? She needs it for baby furniture and Trevor's between jobs right now. No, please. No, I know we haven't talked. Just a demand for $5,000 from the daughter he'd called a disappointment 14 days earlier. Imagine what you would have done in that moment. I typed with shaking hands, disappointments don't do wire transfers. The buzzing started immediately. Dad called 3 times in a row. Then Brianna crying voicemails. Then Aunt Phyllis. Even my cousin Nicole texted, really, Margot? It's for a baby. By the time I got home I had 47 missed calls and 23 texts. Dad, you're being petty and childish. Brianna, I can't believe you do this to me. I'm your sister. Trevor, this is really messed up, Margot. Family helps family. Aunt Phyllis, your mother would be so disappointed in you right now. That last one made me laugh out loud. My mother, who came to every school event, who told me I could be anything. That mother would be disappointed in me? I called the one person who'd always had my back. My grandmother, Ruth. Dad's mom, actually. She lived in Phoenix now, but we talked every Sunday. Ruthie, I said. I only called her that when I was upset. What did my idiot son do now? I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, good for you. What? Good for you standing up for yourself. That boy of mine has had his head up his rear end since your mother died. And if Brianna can't afford baby furniture, maybe Trevor should get an actual job. I laughed. So what do I do now? You stand your ground. Margot, something tells me this story is about to get very interesting. The next morning I woke up to an email from my father. The subject line read, family emergency. I made strong coffee before opening it. The email was long and completely unhinged. He explained how Brianna and Trevor had been going through a rough patch financially. How they'd spent their savings on a pregnancy announcement party I wasn't invited to. How Trevor's crypto business had crashed. And then, as the older sister and the one who's been blessed with financial success, it's your responsibility to help family in need. This is what your mother would have wanted. I closed my laptop, opened it again. Read that last line one more time. Then I hit reply all. Dad had copied Aunt Phyllis, Uncle Gary, Nicole, and about 8 other family members. He wanted an audience for his guilt trip. So I gave them one. Dad, you're absolutely right. This is what Mom would have wanted. She would have wanted you to treat both your daughters with equal love and respect. She would have wanted you to show up for my law school graduation or my 30th birthday, or any event you missed because they weren't about Brianna. She would have wanted you to never call me a disappointment for having a career she was proud of. And yes, she would have wanted me to help my sister. Which is why I'll be in Cincinnati next weekend. Let's have that family dinner you mentioned. The one I was uninvited from. I'll bring the food. See you Saturday at 6 p.m. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I sat back and waited for the chaos because what happened next was going to change everything. Would you have sent that email? Because honestly, I'm still not sure if I made the right call. The responses started flooding in within minutes. Uncle Gary, well, this just got interesting. Cousin Nicole, oh my God, Margot. Aunt Phyllis, this is inappropriate for email. Dad? Radio silence for exactly 4 hours. Then my phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail. On the third call I picked up. What the hell was that? He demanded. That was me accepting your dinner invitation, I said calmly. You said family was important, right? So let's have a family dinner. You can't just, we didn't invite you, Margot. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. Actually laughed. I embarrassed you? Dad, you sent a mass email guilt-tripping me for money after calling me a disappointment. But sure, I'm the embarrassing one. If you show up here, I swear. You'll what? Call me a disappointment again? Already done. Look, I'll be there Saturday at 6. We can either have a conversation like adults or I can leave. Your choice. I hung up before he could respond. Do you think I was being too harsh? Because part of me wondered if I was taking this too far. Jenna came over that night. So you're actually going to Cincinnati? Apparently. I poured us both wine. I have no idea what I'm doing, Jenna. I'm so tired of being treated like I don't matter. Then don't let them treat you that way anymore, she said simply. The next few days were a blur of angry texts from Brianna and concerned calls from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. But Ruth? She sent me one text. Proud of you. Give them hell, sweetheart. I booked a flight for Friday evening and a hotel room. No way was I staying at Dad's house. Thursday night my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello. Margot? It's Trevor. I sat up straighter. Trevor had never called me directly. What do you want? Look, I know things are messed up right now, but Brianna's really stressed. The pregnancy's been hard and all this drama isn't helping. Can't you just, I don't know, apologize or something? Send the money and we can all move on. The audacity nearly knocked me over. Apologize for what, exactly? For that email. For refusing to help your sister when she needs you. For making everything about you. I took a deep breath. Trevor, let me explain something. I've been making everything about me for exactly 5 minutes after 32 years of making everything about everyone else. So no, I'm not apologizing. And I'm definitely not sending money. But I will be at that dinner on Saturday. See you then. I hung up and immediately called Ruth. He actually called you, she said, laughing. That boy has some nerve. Ruthie, am I doing the right thing? Maybe I should just send the money and be done with it. Margot Elizabeth, don't you dare. You know what your grandfather used to say? Don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You've been burning for them your whole life. It's time they felt a little cold. Friday came too fast. I packed a bag, practiced what I'd say on the plane, and tried not to throw up from anxiety. When I landed in Cincinnati, I checked into my hotel and ordered room service. My phone buzzed constantly, but I ignored it all. Saturday afternoon I went shopping. If I was doing this, I was doing it right. I bought sandwich platters, pasta salads, desserts. Enough food for 15 people. Then I drove to Dad's house, my stomach in knots. The driveway was packed with cars. Aunt Phyllis's minivan, Uncle Gary's truck, others I didn't recognize. They'd actually all shown up. I sat in my rental car for a full minute, gripping the steering wheel. What was I even doing here? I grabbed the food and walked to the front door. Before I could knock, it swung open. Brianna stood there, visibly pregnant, eyes red from crying. You actually came, she whispered. I said I would. We stared at each other. She looked tired, older somehow. Margot, I. Let her in or shut the door, you're letting the cold air in. Dad's voice boomed from inside. Brianna stepped aside. I walked into a room full of family members, all staring at me like I'd just crashed a funeral. The silence was suffocating. I set the food on the dining table. I brought dinner as promised. Dad stood in the corner, arms crossed, face red. Uncle Gary sat on the couch looking uncomfortable. Aunt Phyllis was whispering to Cousin Nicole. Trevor stood behind Brianna like a bodyguard. Well, Dad said finally. You've got everyone's attention. What now? I turned to face him and honestly, I had no idea what was about to come out of my mouth. But whatever happened next would determine if this family could ever be fixed. What would you say in this moment? Because I was about to find out if I'd made a huge mistake. I opened my mouth to respond to Dad when Aunt Phyllis suddenly stood up and said something I never expected. Oh, shut up, Richard. Everyone froze. Aunt Phyllis, the family peacekeeper who hadn't raised her voice in 20 years, just told my father to shut up. Phyllis, Dad started. No, I'm talking now. She walked over to me and, to my absolute shock, hugged me. I should have said this years ago, but I'm saying it now. You've done nothing wrong, Margot. Nothing. I stood there, arms at my sides, completely stunned. Do you have any idea what it's like when someone validates you after years of thinking you were crazy? Uncle Gary cleared his throat. Phyllis is right. Rich, you've been harder on this girl than anyone deserves. Dad's face went from red to purple. This is my house and I won't. Your house that Margot helped pay for when your business almost went under 3 years ago, Aunt Phyllis interrupted. Or did you forget about that $15,000 loan she gave you? The one you never paid back? The room went dead silent. I'd forgotten about that money. Or maybe I tried to forget. Dad had called me desperate, said the business was failing and he'd lose everything. I'd wired him the money the same day, no questions asked. He'd promised to pay me back within 6 months. That was 3 years ago. Brianna's eyes went wide. Wait, what? She didn't tell you? Phyllis laughed bitterly. Of course she didn't. Because Margot actually knows what being family means, even when you people don't deserve it. Trevor stepped forward. Okay, everyone just needs to calm down. And you, Uncle Gary pointed at Trevor. Sit down. The adults are talking. I almost laughed at the look on Trevor's face. Almost. Dad finally found his voice. That loan has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with this. Phyllis snapped. You took her money, never paid it back, called her a disappointment, and then had the audacity to ask for more? What's wrong with you? Brianna sank into a chair, hand on her belly. She looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Genuine shock. Margot, I didn't know. I didn't want you to know, I said quietly. It was between me and Dad. See? Dad gestured at me. She admits it was private. This is between us. Then why did you email the entire family asking her for money? Nicole spoke up from the corner. Sweet, quiet Nicole who never got involved. That seemed pretty public to me. Dad had no answer for that. But here's where it got really unexpected. The front door opened and someone I never thought I'd see walked in. My grandmother Ruth, who was supposed to be in Phoenix, stood in the doorway with a suitcase. Ruthie. I breathed. Surprise, sweetheart. She walked in like she owned the place, which, knowing Ruth, she probably felt she did. I caught a flight this morning. Figured my granddaughter might need backup. Dad's face lost all its color. Mom, what are you doing here? What does it look like? I'm here for family dinner. She spotted the food I'd brought. Oh good, Margot brought real food. I was worried we'd be eating whatever Brianna tried to cook. Under different circumstances I would have laughed. Brianna was famously terrible in the kitchen. Ruth walked straight to me and took my hand. Now Richard, you want to explain to everyone here why you think it's acceptable to treat your daughter like garbage. This doesn't concern you, Mom. The hell it doesn't. I raised you better than this. He turned to the room. How many of you knew that Margot paid for her mother's funeral? Richard here was too devastated to handle the arrangements, so 17-year-old Margot planned everything and paid for it with money she'd saved for college. Another bomb dropped. More shocked faces. I had forgotten about that too. Or buried it. After Mom died, Dad had completely fallen apart. Someone had to make decisions, handle the funeral home, pick out the casket. That someone was me. I'd used every penny of my college savings, then taken out loans for school instead. Brianna stood up, tears streaming down her face. Why didn't anyone tell me any of this? Because you were 13, I said softly. And grieving. I didn't want to burden you. So you've been protecting me our whole lives while I... She couldn't finish the sentence. Trevor put his hand on her shoulder, but she shrugged it off. No, Trevor. Just, no. What happened next shocked me more than anything. Brianna walked over and hugged me. Actually hugged me, crying into my shoulder. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I didn't know. I didn't know any of it. Dad always made it seem like you didn't care about us, like you were too good for family. I hugged her back, my own tears starting. I never stopped caring, Bri. Never. Dad was backing toward the kitchen, looking like he wanted to disappear. But Ruth wasn't done. And there's one more thing everyone should know, Ruth announced. She pulled out her phone and started reading. Richard James Anderson, you texted me last week saying, and I quote, Margot's always been difficult. Maybe if she'd been more like Brianna, Sarah wouldn't have been so stressed. The cancer might not have even happened. The room exploded. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. He blamed me for Mom's cancer? Uncle Gary jumped up. Rich, tell me you didn't actually say that. Aunt Phyllis had her hand over her mouth. Nicole was crying. And Brianna? She turned to look at Dad with absolute horror on her face. How could you? Brianna's voice was barely a whisper. How could you say that about her? About Mom. Dad's mouth opened and closed like a fish. I was angry, I didn't mean. Yes, you did, Ruth said coldly. You've always meant it. You blamed Margot for being ambitious, for reminding you that your wife had dreams too. Dreams you told Sarah to give up because family came first. But Sarah wanted Margot to chase every dream she had. And you couldn't stand it. The truth hung in the air like smoke. So that's what this was really about. Dad resented me because I reminded him of Mom, of the life she could have had. I sat down, legs shaking. This was too much. Way too much. And then Dad did something that surprised everyone. He started crying. Actually crying, tears running down his face. I know, he choked out. I know I've been terrible. I know I blamed you for things that weren't your fault. Every time I looked at you I saw her. And it hurt so much that I pushed you away instead. Would you forgive someone in that moment? Because I honestly didn't know if I could. The room was silent except for Dad's crying and Brianna's sniffling. Everyone waited to see what I would do next, and honestly so did I. I stared at my father crying and felt nothing. Then everything all at once. You don't get to do that, I said quietly. You don't get to cry and make this about your pain when you've spent 17 years making me feel worthless. Dad looked up, face wet with tears. Margot, please. No. I stood up. I came here to tell you all exactly what I thought. And I'm going to do that now. Ruth squeezed my hand and stepped back. The room was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking. I was 17 when Mom died. 17. I planned her funeral, paid for it, held Brianna when she cried at night, and made sure Dad ate something every day because he wouldn't get out of bed. I did that while grieving my own mother. My voice cracked but I kept going. And you know what I got for it? Nothing. Not a thank you. Not a hug. Nothing. Brianna was crying harder now. Trevor had gone pale. I put myself through college and law school. Sent money home when you needed it. Showed up to every family event I could. And still I was never enough. I looked directly at Dad. But the truth is I was always enough. You just couldn't see it because you were too busy being angry at a ghost. Dad wiped his face. I know I failed you. You did more than fail me. You broke me in ways I'm still trying to fix. Then Brianna spoke up. Margot, I'm sorry too. I took everything for granted. The attention, the money, all of it. I let Dad put you down because it was easier than admitting I was spoiled. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. She seemed genuinely remorseful. But words were easy. Bri, I don't need an apology right now. I need action. I need you to stop calling me every time you need something and never asking how I'm doing. I need you to tell Trevor to get an actual job instead of expecting me to fund your life. Trevor flinched. That's not fair. Life's not fair, Trevor. Uncle Gary cut him off. Take it from someone who's actually worked for 40 years. Ruth clapped her hands. All right. Here's what's going to happen. Richard, you're going to pay Margot back every penny you owe her. With interest. Mom, I don't have. Sell the boat. Dad's mouth fell open. Pie boat. The one you bought last year instead of paying your daughter back? Yes, that boat. Sell it by next month or I'm selling it for you. I hadn't even known he bought a boat. A $15,000 boat while owing me the same amount. Do you see what I mean about priorities? And Brianna, Ruth continued, you and Trevor are going to figure out your finances without Margot's help. She's not your personal A-team. We will, Brianna said quickly. I promise we will. Good. Ruth turned to me. And you, sweetheart, are going to stop letting people treat you like you're disposable. That hit different. Because she was right. I'd been letting them do this my whole life. Dad walked over slowly. Margot, I can't undo what I've done. But I want to try. Please let me try. I wanted to say no. Part of me wanted to walk out and never come back. But another part, the part that still remembered Dad teaching me to ride a bike, that part hesitated. I don't trust you, I said honestly. And I don't know if I can ever forgive you. But if you're serious about changing, you need to prove it. Not with words. With actions. He nodded. I will. I swear I will. Aunt Phyllis started unpacking the food I'd brought. Well, since we're all here, we might as well eat. Nothing gets solved on an empty stomach. And just like that, the tension broke slightly. People started moving, talking quietly, filling plates. It felt surreal. Brianna sat next to me. Can we talk? Just us. We went out to the back porch. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. I really didn't know, she said. About the money, the funeral, any of it. I know. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were my little sister. I was supposed to protect you, not burden you. She laughed sadly. You're still protecting me. Even now, you could have destroyed me in there, but you didn't. I don't want to destroy you, Bree. I just want to matter. You do matter. You always have. I was just too selfish to see it. She took my hand. I'm going to do better. Starting with telling Trevor he needs to get a real job or I'm moving back home with Dad until he does. I raised my eyebrows. Really? Really? You were right. I've been letting him coast while expecting everyone else to pick up the slack. That ends now. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she said, I want you to be the godmother. When the baby comes, I want you there. I felt tears building. Bree. I mean it. This baby needs to know their aunt. The real you, not the version Dad created in his head. Maybe forgiveness wasn't about one big moment. Maybe it was about small steps forward. When we went back inside, something had shifted. People were actually talking to me like I mattered. Uncle Gary asked about my job. Nicole wanted to hear about Denver. Even Dad managed to ask how my flight was. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even close to fixed. But it was something. As the evening wound down and people started leaving, Ruth pulled me aside. You did good today, sweetheart. Did I? I feel like I just blew up everyone's life. Sometimes things need to explode before they can be rebuilt properly. She kissed my forehead. I'm staying in town for a few days. Let's have breakfast tomorrow, just us. After everyone left, it was just me, Dad, and Brianna cleaning up. The silence was awkward but not hostile. Dad cleared his throat. I'm listing the boat tomorrow. I nodded. Okay. And Margot? Your mother would be so proud of you. I should have told you that every day. I had to look away so he wouldn't see me cry. But here's the thing nobody tells you about confronting your family. It doesn't end when the confrontation is over. The real work was just beginning, and what happened in the next few weeks would determine if this was real change or just temporary guilt. What do you think? Can people really change? As I was about to find out. 3 weeks after that dinner, my phone rang. Dad's name flashed on the screen, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel dread when I answered. I sold the boat, he said. Wiring you $18,000 today. 15 plus interest. I sat down, stunned. He actually did it. And Margot? I started therapy. First session was yesterday. My father, who thought therapy was for weak people, was getting help. That's really good, Dad. The therapist said I've been using you as a target for grief instead of celebrating that you're like your mother. His voice cracked. I have a lot of work to do. But I'm doing it. Do you know what it feels like when someone actually follows through? 2 months later, Brianna called. Trevor got a real job at an accounting firm. And I told him he needed therapy too. He started last week. I'm proud of you, Bree. I'm trying to be someone worth being proud of. The baby shower's next month. Will you help me plan it? I smiled. I'd love to. The shower was small and beautiful. Dad showed up with a handmade crib. Your grandfather taught me woodworking. I thought the baby should have something made with love, not guilt money. I hugged him and it felt real. When Brianna's daughter was born in June, I flew to Cincinnati immediately. Dad was pacing in the waiting room. When the nurse said everyone was healthy, he hugged me tight. Thank you for not giving up on us, he whispered. For being strong enough to tell the truth. I nearly destroyed what your mother built in you, but you wouldn't let me. Holding my niece for the first time, I realized forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing to move forward. And some people, when given a real chance, actually take it. Dad kept going to therapy. He started calling every Sunday just to talk. He asked about my cases, my life, my dreams. He showed up. Really showed up. Brianna and I talked almost daily. She sent baby pictures, asked my advice, actually listened about my life. When she told me the baby's name, Ruth Sarah, after our grandmother and mother, I cried for an hour. Trevor? He actually became decent when he stopped pretending. He apologized over coffee one day genuinely and I accepted it. By Christmas everything looked different. Real laughter, actual conversation, no walking on eggshells. Dad gave me a photo album of pictures with Mom, moments I'd forgotten. On the first page, to Margot, who is exactly who your mother hoped you'd be. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. Love, Dad. Ruth raised her glass at dinner. To Margot for demanding better. To Richard for changing. To Brianna for growing up. And to this family for finally understanding what family means. We clinked glasses and I looked around the table. These people had hurt me deeply. But they'd done the work to heal. That meant something. Later Dad and I did dishes together. I love you, Margot, he said. I should have said it every day and I'll spend the rest of my life making up for that. I love you too, Dad. And I meant it. Not because everything was perfect but because it was real. What would you have done? Would you have given them another chance? The next morning, Jenna picked me up from the airport in Denver. So, how was it? Good. Really good, actually. She laughed. Look at that. The disappointment saved Christmas. I was never the disappointment. I just finally made them see it. My phone buzzed. Brianna sent a picture of baby Ruth wearing a onesie. My aunt is a badass lawyer. Yeah. We were going to be okay. So that's my story. I stood up for myself when it would have been easier to stay silent. And it changed everything. Was it scary? Absolutely. Worth it? Every single moment. If you enjoyed this, please hit like. And if you've ever felt like the disappointment in your family, drop a comment. Sometimes we just need to know we're not alone. If there's something you think I should have done differently, share that too. Thank you for listening. It means everything.